We got the Mac and Mac guys with our usual Wednesday bud. He hops in early with us, and we thank him for it. Does his show down the shore every day on 97.3 ESPN, the Sports Bash. Is today a McMullen day or tomorrow a McMullen day? When do you go on with him, Jack?
Pretty much every day except Friday. But this week, I'm not on Friday, right, Mike? I am.
No, not on Thursday.
Not on
You're
Thursday.
flipping to Friday.
Yeah.
All right, that's good to know. So we'll catch that. We appreciate those of you streaming in to catch Mike Gill here with us.
Let me tell you, Jody, these Mondays, Sirianni keeps knocking John off, and the listeners are like infuriated with me. Like, where's McMullen? And I was like, oh man, the amount of people that text in, they want to hear what John says after the game on Monday. And
Nick's been a 3:15 guy.
These pressers right in his time slot.
Yeah.
That's an ESPN down the shore thing. What are you going to do? Go up and punch Sirianni? Get on time, coach. Yeah, I don't think he's going to sweat you much there. All right, give us the T-shirt reveal. It looks like you got a fancy collar on this one. What are you wearing today?
It's an old school Atlantic City Blackjacks, RIP, but they're bringing the Arena League back, but the Blackjacks were not invited back to the league.
Oh,
so this
that's
is
crushing.
And why would that be?
You know what? I don't know how they picked which. I know the Soul are back, but it's not Jaworski's not involved with the Soul this time around. But I mean, Atlantic City, they were in the league. There was like a 4-team league at the end there. It was pretty bleak. The attendance wasn't terrible, but Boardwalk.
When is that starting up again, Mike?
I don't know. Yeah. But I did some digging to see if they even got a call to see if they'd be welcome back, but I think it was just too. Atlantic City's a tough market for teams. They don't draw well. The building's tough to play in. It's very expensive to run Boardwalk Hall. But this is a one and only 1 year the Blackjacks played, and this is one of their only shirts.
I like that nickname, by the way. I like nicknames that make sense.
Yeah, sure.
I enjoy it. Good job by Atlantic City in the Arena Football League, whichever version it was.
They had asked me to be their play-by-play guy. I couldn't make the commitment, and then they played only 1 year. We actually carried the games on our air, but I could not do the games. But I knew the guy who ran the team. And
didn't Jaworski own every team at the end?
He had a stake, I think, in that team. Yes.
Yeah. Good for Ron. But hopefully the Arena Football League is back and they do some things. There were some great quarterbacks coming out of that league. Kurt Warner, most notably. But
saw Kurt Warner's son announce he's entering the portal.
Yeah, don't get me started on the transfer portal. We only got 2 hours. That is destroying. You get these college guys. Well, here I go. They play in 4 different colleges. You're like, it drives me insane. Anyway, go ahead, Jody.
I was going to say, and he's a nice kid, and he's got some talent. He wasn't great this year. If he's transferring out attempts like the end of the world, it's more the disrespect thing. Man, we talked a lot about disrespect. How dare Kurt Warner's son leave Temple? Yeah, he can, because everybody does. John's right. The transfer portal is everybody uses it. So I saw that story yesterday. I said, okay, let's move on. Yeah. And we'll do that with the 49ers and the Eagles. John was just telling me that the 49ers, as per Pro Football Focus, are the 28th run blocking line, pass blocking line in the National Football League. Yet Brock Purdy only has 22 sacks. There are upwards of 7/8 of the team in the NFL. I think there's only 2 quarterbacks who are the starters and have been the starters like basically every single game, like Purdy has, who have less sacks than he does. And oh, by the way, they were once traded for each other, Goff and Stafford. And other than that, he's got the least sacks in the National Football League of a quarterback who takes every single snap. Is he that good at just getting rid of the football? That if their offensive line is ranked as poorly as they are in pass blocking, how the hell has he only been sacked 21 times?
I'm surprised by the ranking, but I would say their offense, and this is why this week is a very interesting matchup for me. I kind of broke this down a little bit yesterday. You got Zach Cunningham, don't know what his situation is. Obviously, Dean's already out. You got Christian Ellis. Well, the 2 biggest factors for this matchup is Kittle and McCaffrey out of the backfield. And that's why the pass blocking, the sack situation is they get the ball in these short little spaces. Debo Samuel, they're not a team that takes a lot of shots down the field. Everything is, hey, Brock Purdy is who he is, and I'm not a Purdy hater. He's a smart guy. He delivers the ball, but they're smart. They say, look, you are what you are. Get the ball to the guys who can make plays. Kittle, McCaffrey, Debo, Ayuk. Those are the guys they want the ball in the hands, not the quarterback. So everything is quick and fast. And if the Eagles have these linebacking issues, I would imagine you're going to find Shanahan trying to find every way possible to get those linebackers in coverage, which makes sacking the quarterback that much more difficult when you're using the short, quick middle of the field.
Yeah, I said he's a very quick processor. Mike's right. I made the comparison. He's Mo Cheeks, the old Sixers. He's the point guard. Get the football out of your hands, get it into the hands of the playmakers, and they got a lot of playmakers. And
and that's John, we talked about this yesterday because you're watching that game, and I thought that, like, the Dobbs story, it was great. The guy just can't play. There's a reason why he's bounced around the league. And the difference between a guy like a Dobbs who has some talent, the problem is Purdy knows what he is, and they know what he is. He's an accurate, quick thrower of the football. Does he have a Hauser for an arm? No. Can he bomb the deep ball down the field? No. But
now I'm going to defend Josh Dobbs. I agree with you. Josh Dobbs stinks, but they're playing Kirk Cousins' offense. They're playing the San Francisco. They're playing play action. They got Josh Dobbs under center. Yeah, you're going to lose. He's going to look awful. He's got to be in the gun. He's got to be running RPOs.
Right. Well, and my point is they don't use him the right way. And the difference between a guy like Dobbs, who has more talent than Purdy, the problem is he's erratic. He doesn't have the touch. That's where
doesn't that count? How does he have more talent than Purdy when one can accurately throw the football and the other one can't? How did you come up with that one, Mike?
I think Mike is saying he's more athletically gifted, which he is.
That's not more talented. There's a big difference between being more athletically
being able to process,
more physical talent. He's got a better arm. He's got a better, stature, if you will.
Yeah, he's more.
He has the like, that's the thing. Like, people say, okay, like a guy like a Gardner Minshew, he knows what he is. He has good touch. He's an accurate thrower. He can move a little bit. Do you want him for 17 games? Probably not. But because why? On that 3rd and 7, that big play of the game, Minshew can't fire that thing in there, but he's capable to keep you in game. That's where some of these guys, you're just looking like I don't understand how these guys make it to the league, and I guess there's such a dearth of talent at that position. But Purdy, to go bring it back to him, I think he is such an underrated guy to the fans just because of his draft status, and, he doesn't look the part sometimes. But that guy, to me, he knows exactly what he is. And, John, like you're saying, they know what he is. They're not asking him to be something he's not.
Matters so
he
much.
Is great. He is great at being what he is. Just, hey, I got all these weapons. You guys are the stars of the team. And that's why he is not looked at as great. But he is a very, very big weapon. In that
there's offense. I'll give you another example. There's a Carolina thing going on. Frank Reich got fired. And now this always happens in the league. You saw it with Chase Young leaving Washington, and they would, he freelances too much. You never heard this before, and all of a sudden they're kicking him in the ass on the way out the building. Well, in the Frank Reich, what's going around today is, they asked Frank Reich to incorporate more RPOs and stuff to help Bryce Young, and he said no. I was here in 2017 when they changed the whole stinking offense at the end of the season when Carson Wentz got hurt because Nick Foles wasn't comfortable with it. So that's bullshit, because I know if Frank thinks he's going to change something, he's going to change something to help the quarterback. Now, I saw Kevin O'Connell, who everybody thinks is a great young coach. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. But he ain't helping Josh Dobbs. He's playing the same Kirk Cousins offense and asking Josh Dobbs to make Kirk Cousins throws. And wow, he can't make them. Big shocker. That ain't his fault. Scheme.
Is that a retort to Frank Reich wanted C.J. Stroud and he got sent
maybe.
Bryce Young?
Because I heard that way before that Frank wanted C.J. Stroud. I mean, way months ago. Before they even started playing. And hey, look, Carolina wasn't the most people had Bryce Young rated ahead of CJ Stroud. Let's be honest. Most people around the league did. Certainly most draft analysts did. But by all indications, Frank really did want CJ Stroud. So take it for what it is. That wasn't saying after he got fired. That's been going around for months.
Yeah.
All right, so we've talked since he got fired on Monday. We talked about the end of the show, and then John and I talked about it yesterday. Does Nick Sirianni owe it to Frank Reich to bring him in and be a consultant for this team?
I don't know if he owes it to him. I don't know what the hurt would be. I mean, they did it last year with Fangio. If you have just another set of ideas, I mean, we had people Monday, the moment it happened, texting into our show, you got to fire Brian Johnson, bring Frank Reich in. I mean, it's preposterous. But I don't see where the harm would be to have him just kind of hanging around. And if you want to ask questions, although, I mean, his comments to the Charlotte Observer, I think it was, he didn't sound like he was all that,
Well, that's because he's got like 40 or 50 million coming to him. So
he'll be okay in retirement.
Yeah.
Sure. And I guess he could stand on the Eagles sideline for free and keep collecting checks.
Well, and that's the thing I said yesterday. Frank and Nick are so close. He's already a consultant for the Eagles, even when he was the head coach in Indianapolis and the head coach in Carolina. It's just not particular weeks when they get too busy. But
the one thing I guess you could say, like, is it worth bringing him in? This is more big picture to me, Jody. It's this Brian Johnson stuff's not going to go away. I can imagine the comment section's going to start.
It's going away because he's going to be a head coach.
He's going to be a head coach, and it might be as soon as this offseason. So do you want to have somebody now? I know Ken Petula's here. Maybe he's the next guy. Or do you want to go to Frank Reich and bring him in and have him here already in the system and starting to work with these players? So if you want to look at it from that angle, you might want to try to get somebody in the building and start to get them around the players. I don't see the harm in it. I know some people are like, well, is that too much? Look, you said the same thing about Patricia. Did anybody remember that he's even on the staff?
Right. When was the last time we mentioned Matt Patricia?
Right.
2 months ago? Maybe?
Listen, for me, if you're a coach who's okay in your skin and you are, comfortable with your role, you welcome more help and more coaching and more ideas. The more ideas and stuff that you can add to the fray, I don't see why that's a bad thing. As long as you're comfortable that this guy's not here to take my job. And I don't think that would be the case here.
Right. And the reason why I said, does he owe it to him? Like John has continued to say all week, Nick talks to him anyway. So he can pick up the phone and talk to him anytime. They're that close. But now he's not restrained from being on in an Eagle position, aka payroll, whatever. And the money means absolutely nothing. The question is, do you get to take the championship ride? If you're taking 2 calls a week, is that really being part of the team? He's got a chance to add Frank Reich, and if they're going to go all the way and win a Super Bowl, get him a Super Bowl ring, does he owe it to him since he was his unspoken mentor? Sirianni says it all the time. He's his mentor.
I would say if Frank wants to be here, he'll be here. I don't know the contract. That might screw up his contract. A lot of it will have to do with what he's able to do. If he wants to be here, I can't emphasize enough how close those two are. Nick Sirianni.
That's why I'm asking the question.
Yeah. But he might have restrictions because of the contract that doesn't allow him to. There's a whole bunch of things that not only we don't know, we can't know. We're never going to get a look at his contract and what he can and what he can't do or risk that particular money. So obviously he's not going to risk whatever it is, $40 million. So whether it becomes official or not, he's always been a Nick Sirianni consultant. I will say that.
Do you think David Tepper was smart enough to be able to write a contract that could save him $40 million when he knows he's got to pay him? If we're assuming in the contract he's getting paid anyway, then why would we assume that there's a clause that if he went and worked somewhere else, he'd have to?
Well, there's always offset language is a normal thing in the NFL.
Understood.
Very normal
Offset.
thing.
What do you think the Eagles advisors, the consultants they brought in, got paid last year?
I have no idea, to be honest, what they what they pay, but it's certainly not significant compared to a head coach in the NFL.
Not 40 million.
Yeah, no. So if Frank Reich wants to offset it, he's gonna get it anyway, whether the Eagles
like
or Tepper pays him. The question is, does he want to be part of this team again and potentially get a Super Bowl ring out of it?
Tepper fires Matt Rule and has to pay him for how many more years is he paying him? And he went and took the college job, and I think that ended that contract, did it not?
No. Oh, no. There might have been offset language. He's getting something from the Panthers. I can pretty much guarantee you that. Rule wouldn't have taken the gig if he was losing all that money. He's losing up to a point. And
well, those guys make a lot of money. I don't know what Matt got, but
Matt was one of the highest paid coaches in the NFL without ever having coached.
No, I'm saying with Nebraska. I assume he got a boatload with Nebraska too. Those college guys, those top tier. Mike Elko, who's like a nobody, got $7 million a year from Texas A&M, and that was low compared to what they were paying Jimbo. Those typically, Michigan, as people trying to get Jim Harbaugh out of there, those high level schools in college, and even though Nebraska has been not what they once were during the Tom Osborne days and all that, they're still spend a lot of money on their coaches. So, Matt was getting paid a ton at Carolina, but he's getting a ton in Nebraska as well. So that's to me, that's a big difference because, Frank essentially intimated he was done in the NFL. I think that is strictly related to the money because he's never going to be able to get that money anywhere else.
Right. And he wouldn't be coming to the Eagles for the money. He'd be coming to the Eagles to help his buddy out and to potentially get a ring. All right. Mr. Gill, supposedly Shaq Leonard is going to be at the Eagles facility today. Linebacker, all pro, all world for a while, not playing to that level, but not playing near as badly as some people are laying out this year. The Colts, you'd say, why would the Colts release him? They got to pay him anyway. Why would they release him? Because they knew that he wasn't going to be part of a run going forward. They knew they weren't making the playoffs. So if you've got to
they're in the playoffs right now.
They're in it. Yeah, they're in it.
They're the seventh team.
Yeah. Yeah, they're in the mix.
Then should we be calling the Colts on the carpet? Or is the Colts' estimation Shaq Leonard's got nothing left?
Well, they benched him.
I think this is a very interesting topic, Jody, based on what we're talking about with the coaches. You would have to imagine that Nick Sirianni and Shane Steichen have had some conversation. And in that conversation, Nick says to Shane, hey, man, why'd you cut him? Has he got anything left in the tank? Like, you would think there would be intimate knowledge there of Steichen telling Sirianni, hey, this guy can really help you guys. Or we cut him because he got nothing left. So I get it. We talked a little bit about this yesterday with Colin Thompson, who's a free agent, and he's gone through these calls and basically what you have to go through with MRIs and all sorts of stuff. So that sometimes doesn't make it as quick as you would think. He was released 2 weeks ago, though. He's been sitting on the street for 2 weeks. So you would think if the Eagles needed and wanted him. Now, did they need him a week ago? You would say, maybe not. Well, then Cunningham gets banged up. But you're telling me that if this guy was healthy and it was as good as he was, the Eagles wouldn't have that intimate knowledge to say, you know what, this guy's better than what we got. Even though what we have hasn't been bad, we still need the depth. Let's call and bring him in. I think this whole thing is very interesting to me based on the relationships between Steichen and Sirianni, and I'm sure other people in that front office. And you could say other teams can probably have relationships somewhere not that intimate, where the two head coaches know each other that closely. So them not bringing him in, does that speak volumes to you guys at all?
Well, the whole issue of Indianapolis cutting him speaks volumes. That is cautious to me because they are in it, as you mentioned.
And real quick, John, I don't know the guy. I never covered the guy, but you're thinking, okay, is he a jerk? No,
he's
the
not.
guy's out there handing turkeys out.
Yeah.
He's at the stadium this week cheering on the team after he got cut.
I would go so far as to say he's almost, maybe legend is too big of a word, but he was a big part of that franchise's identity for a long time. And the Indy people were shocked when they cut him. Now, understand, his contract was huge. they were going to get rid of him after the season anyway. But they are in it with a rookie head coach to make even the 7 seed. You're probably one and done, but that's big. That's big for a rookie head coach, and to be able, nobody expected him to make the playoffs, and they lose the quarterback, and Gardner Minshew's the starting quarterback. If you can somehow make a playoff with that situation, that bodes well for the future. And they cut him. It was weird. Now they benched him, and they evidently don't think he was the player he once was. So maybe it's just as simple as that. If he's not going to be a starter, you don't want him. The Eagles are in a completely different position, obviously. Ironically, I think it's Nick Sirianni's relationship. Everybody's eyes roll when they hear him go with the connection stuff and blah, blah, blah. That might win him, Shaq Leonard, over Dallas. And if that turns out to be the difference, is he what he once was? No. Is he better than what the Eagles have? Yeah, probably.
This is the classic. If Dallas signs him, he's cooked. But if Philly signs him, they got an all-pro.
Well, yeah. But I'm not even talking about no. Well, the Eagles aren't getting an all-pro. Nobody's getting an all-pro. So people who think he's going to be an all-pro, that's not going to happen.
Well, I guess the big question here, and especially he's not going to play this week, even if they did sign him, which isn't going to happen. But is he an upgrade over Zach Cunningham?
That to me is the most interesting part. If they bring him in, who do they bench? Because he's going to play. Do they bench Zach Cunningham or they bench Nick Morrow? For some reason, Nick Morrow keeps playing well, and they don't seem to believe in him. I think ultimately, if Shaq Leonard's here at the end of the year, it's going to be Shaq Leonard and Zach Cunningham if he's healthy. We're going to see with the hamstring. They don't seem to believe in Nick Morrow no matter what. And the guy, I get it, but the guy just goes out there and performs pretty well.
Yeah.
And by the way, Leonard was released exactly 8 days ago. So it hadn't been 2 weeks. There's been 1 weekend of action that has gone past since he got released. And you had to wait for him to clear waivers. First, you had to see if somebody was actually going to claim him.
That happened on Tuesday. He got released on Tuesday. So it's been a full week. Yeah. So he missed 1 week of games. This would be the second week of games he would miss. So you're right.
Second week of games, but it hasn't been 2 weeks yet.
He got released on Tuesday because I remember I was on remote that day.
I'm just trying to factor that in because that's part of it. Because I know what I think he's got left his game. John knows what he thinks he got left his game. You know who's the biggest decider? The rest of the National Football League. We know no one picked him up because he had an outrageously large contract left. But since then, as far as I can tell, 2 teams have made an actual realistic play for him, and that's the Eagles and the Cowboys. So the rest of the league has kind of said, yeah, we don't have the insight that Shane Steichen might be willing to share with Sirianni. So we'll just go by our scouts, and our scouts say he's nowhere near the player that he used to be. So that's an injury issue the Eagles have to deal with. We'll find out a little bit more about Milt Williams. How much do you think they missed Milt Williams last week in the middle of that defensive lineup?
Well, you lost him and Fletcher. So now you had basically 2 guys. I loved Milt Williams coming into this season, and this was before they drafted Jalen Carter. I really thought Milton Williams would, I don't want to say duplicate Hargrave, but he's a guy that gets to the quarterback. He has a limited amount of snaps, and he's still able to get hits and pressure. I think he had like 4 sacks last year. In half the, it doesn't play a lot of snaps. And if he got his snaps elevated. So I think Milton Williams being out is much bigger because Fletcher went out. Now, I don't know what Fletcher's status is because at the end of that game, you're rolling Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis almost every single snap. And obviously we saw what happened with Davis. He's out of gas. He's chasing the guy down. Playing him that much, not to have that third guy to really, rotate in there, I think is a big loss. But it's bigger because of the Fletcher injury. Because if you have 3 guys, you can at least kind of rotate the 3 in some sort of fashion. But John, do you have any update on Fletcher?
Not Fletcher yet, but Milton was in the protocol. He should be
right?
back. Yeah, he should be back. He doesn't have a history. He should be back. I'd be shocked if he's not back. But Fletcher will have a better indication probably on Thursday. They'll have an estimated injury report.
And
today.
they were using, it looked like anyway, that they had Jalen Carter lined up on the outside a little bit.
Oh, yeah, man. That dude. Oof.
So him on
I'm
the
at the
outside
point-
there with Milton as a part of almost three guys out there. That's a handful.
By the way, he blocked the kick.
Yeah.
Jalen Carter, the week before in Kansas City, he's almost intercepting a Patrick Mahomes spike. He is so athletic for his size. And you just mentioned Jordan Davis running 17 miles an hour. When he's gassed, by the way, he was completely done. That's my bigged concern. Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter going into this week destroyed their career snap highs. They played so much because the Eagles were on the field for 95 snaps.
Yeah, we discussed yesterday because this had to do with the coach, Brian Johnson, and I said Sean Desai. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't get head coaching interviews either. But my question was, number one, has Desai done a significant upgrade over what Gannon did? And does he have a more talented defense than Gannon did? Is this defense personnel-wise better?
No.
Not a chance.
No.
Just purely because of the addition of the big guy in the middle? No shot. You can't say that.
There's so much
champions good. They had to replace too many guys.
Yeah, they're way,
So do we think that Sean Desai has been a significant upgrade?
No, I don't. But
I think he's done a better job.
I think he's done
Brian
a solid
Johnson.
job. I'm not saying he's done a poor job, but the Eagles had the number 2 defense in the NFL.
Well, that's what I was saying. Is statistically speaking, last year's defense was number 2 in football, and this defense, pass defense, they're like bottom 5 in the league. The sacks are way down, but this has to do with Jalen Carter because I said, talent wise, okay, is Carter's
better than Hargrave?
Is he more impactful on this team than Hargrave was on last year's team?
Yes. I would say yes. And
overall, yes. To the pass rush, no. Overall, every snap, every down.
I think Jalen Carter's better on the pass rush. I think he's better on Jalen Carter just beats people.
How many sacks has Jalen Carter got?
Jody, you're obsessed with sacks. It's about impacting the game. The Eagles, one of the things, and Hassan talked about this when Josh Allen was getting the intentional grounding call rather than taking the sack that a lot of people thought was a horse collar, but that's another conversation. Teams came into the season, and because of last season, understandably so. And I said, if Jonathan Gannon was here, they weren't getting 70 sacks again. Everybody adjusts. They know they got to get the football out. Everybody's done it since week 1. People have been cognizant. We got to get the ball out against this team. We got to get the ball out. And everybody speeds up. Not only guys who are speedy, like Brock Purdy this week, but the guys who aren't, like Kirk Cousins, sped up. Everybody sped up. Everybody speeds up against the Eagles. They're trying to get the football out. If you watch Jalen Carter on a snap-by-snap basis, the way he beats people is all I can call it is Aaron Donald-ish. He beats people on almost every single play, and they're very cognizant of it, and they're very understanding that they have to get the football out quickly or bad things are going to happen. He gets held a lot. They're not called. That's part of it. Aaron Donald lives with it. You got to live with it. He is a different type of player. A very, very rare type of player. He has been unbelievable. And I thought he was going to be unbelievable, but I didn't think he was going to be this good. He can't block. You can't block him. And nobody has been able to block him. And the biggest issue with Jalen Carter now is ramping him up. Now, he played all those snaps because of Georgia and because of what they are and what they are. Nobody plays a lot of snaps there. And you got to get that conditioning to be able to do it every single play like Aaron Donald. If he gets to that point, look out. Look out.
All right, I got a question for both you guys. Mike, you first, and then you, John. Nolan Smith. We use the phrase draft and develop much more so, Mike, in baseball than we do in football. but it's based on the same process. You pick a guy, you got to coach him up. You got to get him used to your system. You got to build him up. You got to teach him. This guy's getting 10 snaps a game. He was a first-round draft pick. First, not third, not fifth, not seventh, first-round draft pick, and they can't get him on the field for more than 10 snaps a game. I'm sorry, there's no way to look at that say that's underachieving. Do we blame the Eagles more for overdrafting him, or do we blame them more for not getting him up to speed quickly enough? I understand John's good buddy Schwartz's line of startup costs and rookies. Yes, have it. 10 snaps a game for a first-round draft pick is underachieving. There's no way around it in my estimation. You can't come close to explaining it to me. I just want to know who's more at fault here. Those who drafted him at number 30 or those that have him and can't get him up to speed enough to play more than 10 snaps a game?
Well, I mean, underachieving would have to be, yes, based on the fact that you just mentioned his production isn't there for where he was drafted. Now, as the why, whose snaps is he taking, I guess, is the question.
Derek Barnett's. He had a chance to get him this week. They told Derek, get the hell out of here. Or 2 weeks away.
Derek Barnett wasn't playing very many snaps either. That's the hard part.
He's getting 20 so much. Derek Barnett's getting more snaps than him. He gets twice as many.
He was. And you could, that's my thought process is you give him Derek. Derek was probably around 10.
10, right.
And Nolan's probably around 5, to be honest.
I think he played 10 this past week.
So if you get him to like 15 to 20, that's where I think he should be. And even if it's like, and I asked Sean this yesterday, I asked him that exact question. Do you want that fourth guy in the rotation? He kind of admitted he does. So that says a lot that Nolan, it's a little disappointing that he hasn't been able to get the snaps. Here's his numbers: 7, 6, 6, 9, 8, 3, 4, 4, 9, 5, and 11 against Buffalo.
I gave him too much credit. I thought he was at 10 because he was 10 last week. It's the first time he got to 10.
Yeah, now, that was a career high.
John, you see him in person on television, watching him. My initial thought is he's pretty darn small.
Yeah, I mean, he's very small.
He looks small for the position that he plays. I mean, you're telling me he's getting Derek Barnett
but they drafted him. He hasn't shrunk, has he?
I get that. My
point is, the same size when they called his name out at number 30, and now they're realizing he's small.
I get that, and I'm saying, so I don't know, when they drafted him, did they anticipate that his size was not going to be an issue, that he was that explosive of a player that it wouldn't matter? And now they're seeing that maybe he gets swallowed up a little bit. I mean, you don't get to see him do a whole heck of a lot to say, like in the NBA, you see a guy play for 12 minutes and you're like, how come this guy doesn't get more minutes? He's out there so sporadically that he never gets in any sort of rhythm that you can get a proper judgment on what he can do in games. Now, they see him in practice. Now, keep in mind, see how small he is. In practice, is he going up against Jordan Mailata? He's probably getting swallowed, So I think his size has probably been an issue for him.
Well, yeah, I mean, he is undersized. Now, one of the things, Hassan Reddick's tremendously undersized as well. And I think maybe they got caught up and said, well, Hassan can do it. But just because, he's the anomaly, it's not like you roll up every 235-pound guy and they're able to play the edge like Hassan Reddick. So maybe they got too caught up in that and saying, because you heard all those comps, oh, he's like Hassan Reddick. But I wouldn't say it's time to give up on him. And this happens a lot with offensive linemen. Typically, they gotta get in an NFL weight room, as they say, to get stronger, because they're going against these old men strength guys who are just so stinking powerful. And it takes them a little while to get that kind of strength. I think he needs better play strength. So you get him in that, they have him in the strength program. You have the entire offseason. Maybe he comes back next year, he's a completely different player. But I think it's fair to say this year, it's a bit of a disappointment if you're looking for immediate
And
impact.
Keep in mind, Hassan Reddick, his first year, a first-round pick, he wasn't too good.
He didn't do it. Well, they're also playing him on.
They played him out of position. Yeah. But as he kind of found his way, he became a much better player a couple years. I mean, it took him 2 or 3 years before they finally figured out what to do with him. Now, Smith is in the role. I don't know. Is Smith even in the role that they wanted to be in?
Yeah, he definitely is. People have talked about him at linebacker. He's not playing all-ball linebacker. I get that. I got that again because the Eagles need a linebacker. Nolan Smith is not playing all-ball linebacker. Stop it. Stop it.
I'd like to check Hassan Reddick's stats as a rookie. Playing out of position, as we all agree he was. I guarantee he was better than what Nolan Smith's doing. Nolan Smith sounds to me averaging about 7 snaps a game. Hassan Reddick, I'm guessing, played more and produced more than Nolan Smith.
Now, to be fair, the Eagles are very deep. Like, if he got drafted by somebody else, he might be out there playing because they need somebody. The Eagles don't need somebody. They have Reddick, they have Sweat, they have Brandon Graham, who are going to get the vast majority of the snaps. Now, in my opinion, they need to find that 4th guy to limit some of the snaps that Reddick and Sweat are getting so they're as healthy and ready to go as possible.
Now, Jody, I got the answer to your question.
Yes.
Hassan Reddick played 3 games. He started 3 games. He had 36 tackles, 2.5 sacks as a rookie. The next year, he started 12 games as a linebacker. His first year, he played D-end. His second year, he played linebacker. And then he finally got moved to outside linebacker in 2020, and that is where he had 12.5 sacks.
Right.
His first 3 years in the league, he really didn't do
no, he was considered a linebacker. No, everybody, you got to use players right. Everybody dismisses scheme. There's a lot of talented players in the NFL are used incorrectly. Hassan was one of them.
Do they the Eagles are pretty strategic like this, Do they look at Reddick? Okay, he's 29. This is what he's getting paid.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt about it.
And we release him, and then Nolan Smith is the guy that steps into that spot.
Not so much right now, but yeah, that was part of the thought process. No doubt about it. Because they already pay. Sweat's underpaid because they got him done early. He's already, and you're going to start to have to talk about another extension for him. Hassan's underpaid after 1 year. Even we joked it was the situation in training camp because he wasn't practicing early, and people were saying, is this a hold-in? Because he had such a big year and he was so underpaid. And it turned out to be, no, he was just banged up. But they're going to have to deal with the contract situation for both of those guys.
A lot of them.
Yeah.
A lot of guys on this team.
And we talked all the way around it. Neither one of you asked my question, so I'll ask it again. If we agree that he's underachieved here in year number 1, more on overdrafted or more on undercoached?
I don't think he was overdrafted. So
I don't know that either of those answers are accurate.
Yeah.
Has to be. Are you going to say that he's not a disappointment for the
amount of overdrafted to me? It depends. I guess it depends on depth. Everything's about definition. Sure. Overdrafted to me means if you didn't take him at 30, he wasn't going to go to 60, and that's not the case. They didn't leap. In fact, if anything, Nolan went a little bit lower than he was supposed to in most circles. So I don't think they overdrafted him. Is it development? Maybe. Is it?
I just think it's a case that he's on a team where Hassan Reddick gets all the snaps, and that's really the position that he should be playing. If he was, they have somebody that's in front of him that's one of the elite players in this league. So instead of just playing him out of position and having him stink, and people saying this guy can't play at all, they're just not playing him as much as we would like a first-round pick to play. So I don't know that means he's overdrafted or undercoached. I think he's just blocked right now.
Yeah, he is blocked. Like I said, if he was on a different team, we might be having a dip because he'd be forced to play, and he might not even be playing that well. But if you're getting 50 snaps, he might have 6 sacks, and people go, "That's pretty good."
Then I'm putting it on the coaches. He was blocked by Derek Barnett. They thought so much of Derek Barnett this week, they released his ass. So he was the guy who was keeping him off the field. I'm sorry, that's on the coaches. Why haven't you developed? Why haven't you been able to coach him up if he was talented enough to be a first-round draft pick, to be able to get him more snacks than Derek Barnett? If you can't get him past a guy that you felt was giving you so little, you released him. Released him.
Is this okay? Here's a question: Are Derek Barnett and Hassan Reddick playing the same position?
No. No.
So him taking Barnett's getting blocked by Barnett, that's still not the role that I think that suits him best.
So then that's the question. If he is the replacement for Hassan Reddick, is this a Hassan Reddick? Can we write Hassan Reddick off for next year? Is he going to be dealt, going to be traded? Because if not, you're using a first-round pick for a guy who's going to sit on his ass for 2 years because he can't get into a game because all he can do is replace Hassan Reddick. Well, you're not banking on Hassan Reddick going anywhere, are you?
No, but I think he's going to play more. It's just a matter of.
Well, which is it? Mike just said we can only look at him because he's replacing Hassan Reddick.
No, he's not
to Derek Barnett because it's a different position. Well, what position does Nolan Smith play?
Well, he should be a Sam linebacker. He should be an overhang player, whatever you want to call it. JG used to call it overhang. Sam linebacker, people call it rush, and edge rusher. From the strong side is typically where the most natural fit. But yeah, he's going to play other spots. I mean, they move Hassan around and he's going to play other spots and he should be out there more. I'm not saying he shouldn't be out there more. There's a lot of moving pieces at Barnett story. They didn't want to release him. He wanted out. They should have traded him. They didn't trade him. They could have traded him. And ultimately, it got to the point where
they could. Well, you got to explain this one, John. They could have traded him for what? What do you think the best offer that was out there?
Probably a 7th-round pick or something of that nature. Condition, nothing of value. But Miami, it already came out. Miami wanted him. Houston wanted him, and the Eagles didn't want to trade. But then it became untenable behind the scenes. He wasn't happy and all this. So there's a lot of. They didn't just want to release him. And
so then I'll ask you this one. Who's that on? Coaching staff or the general manager? If you got nothing for someone that you could have gotten something.
Yeah, it's a mistake.
Coaching staff for the executive.
Howie's not perfect. And he thought he could manage the situation. He couldn't manage the situation. So if you want to blame it on Howie, blame it on Howie. There's, 70 players in the building. You go back to training camp, there's over 100 when we add all injured reserve and everything else. Everything is not perfect, despite the fact that everybody wants to, and nobody's offered that apology when I said Howie was top 5 back when they hated him. I'm still waiting for that. But now people are like, he never makes a mistake. He makes mistakes all the time. Everybody makes mistakes. And he didn't handle that situation well. It's fair to say.
Yeah, he's not batting 1,000. Nobody bats 1,000.
No.
Nobody. So you shouldn't hold him to that kind of standard. All right, Mike Gill. The Eagles will win the game because blank. The Eagles will lose the game because blank. Pick or choose your blank and fill it in.
It's a good one. This is a weird stretch. These 5 games, we've all been kind of trying to figure out how they get through this stretch. I think the Eagles will win the game because they will be very focused to win this game. There's been so much back and forth and how important it is. If they win the game, San Francisco essentially has no shot at getting the number 1 seed. The Eagles have a 95% chance of getting the number 1 seed if they win this game, which means I think they probably lose to Dallas and Seattle. So I'll say the Eagles will win this game because this is essentially a playoff game for them, and this is their key to home field advantage to get them back to the Super Bowl. They will be prepared for that. I think the 2 teams, very similar, very equal. I like the Eagles' offensive line a little bit better than the San Francisco offensive line. I think their secondary has some questions. Funga being out is a big problem for them in this game. I think the Eagles are going to have a handful with McCaffrey, Kittle, but I like Philadelphia. Home field advantage at stake in the game. They'll be focused and ready, and that's why I say the Eagles will win the game because this, to me, is basically a key to the Super Bowl.
That's pretty damn big. If it plays out that way, it's going to make a great game on Sunday.
If San Francisco wins, by the way, they have a 35% chance of getting that number 1 seed. It's not a huge door that opens, but it's a lot more than 0. I mean, they got about no chance to get a number 1 seed if they lose this game.
Agreed. Mike Gill, always a pleasure. Thank you very much for coming on board today. We'll get you up next week.
All right, everybody. See ya.
Thanks, Mike.
There he is, Mike Gill from the Sports Bash, 97.3 ESPN down the shore, where John McMullen will be making an appearance today or tomorrow. Which one you doing? Can't do Thursday.
What's today? Wednesday?
Today?
Yeah, I'll be on there today.
You'll be on today. So if you haven't gotten enough McMullen here on Birds 365,
It's hard to imagine.
Yeah. A little bit later on. All right, Mac and Mac coming back. We've got our buddy Les Bowen going to join us coming up in less than 10 minutes, so don't even think about going anywhere.